How's it going, everybody? We're going to be doing a tutorial on how to stabilize your footage using Adobe After Effects in conjunction with Adobe Premiere Pro. We're going to do the stabilizing in After Effects and then bring it back into Premiere to do our final export. And so let's get started. We load our footage onto the source window. This is our footage here. This is a raw footage. And as you can tell, there's a little bit of shakiness going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our endpoints. We're going to start setting our endpoint right past this sign that's there. Just right past it. We select it. Let's go a little further out. Let's try right about here. All right, we select our endpoint and go past it. Keep right before I move my camera out the way. So right about there. We're going to grab our clip. So click, drag. We're going to drag it onto our timeline. There it is. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with the audio, so we'll worry about that later. It's a little loud, so let me mute it. Okay. So there's a little bit of camera movement, and what we're going to try to do is try to eliminate as much of the camera movement as possible using the stabilize tool in After Effects. So once we have our clip selected down here, go ahead and click on it, right click, and then go to replace with After Effects composition. What Adobe's going to do is it's going to open up Adobe After Effects and replace your Premiere clip with an After Effects composition. So essentially anything that we do in After Effects will translate over to Premiere. So this is our footage. As you can tell, it's been just brought over seamlessly from Adobe Premiere. Now you want to make sure that your computer has plenty of RAM. Once you have your footage here, you go over to the tracking tool. If you don't see the tracking window open, go ahead and click on window and make sure that the tracker is selected. All right, so we have that selected. Go ahead and click on your clip, go to stabilize motion. It's going to create a tracker right here, and then I leave these settings alone. I go over to options and make sure that stop tracking is selected. All right, and 80%. Essentially, this is sort of like tolerance. This is confidence. So if it's at least 80%, it has to be at least 80% confident that the object that it's tracking, the marker that it's tracking in the footage, that it's able to track it. If it feels that it lost its reference or its selected marker, it'll let us know and it'll pause the tracking process. So let's hit OK. All right, now here's our tracking point. All right, so come over and I'm gonna select this area here as a tracking point. Now, this may be a little trial and error situation. You might try this a few different times, until you're happy with the results. So let's try that spot here for a sec, and let's try it once. Let's see if it can keep up with that part of the airplane. So go ahead and hit the Analyze Forward button. Okay, so far so good. It hasn't lost its reference. Very nice. And this is essentially analyzing the footage. So it's creating all these different keyframes. And it stopped because it thought it wasn't 80% confident that it was tracking the correct object. So we can go one frame at a time by clicking frame forward. Or if you're confident that you're still in the right spot, that your tracking point is still in the same place, go ahead and hit play again. All right. Sometimes the lighting, if there's a glare or some sort of reflection in the shot, a change in color, it'll, even though it's still in the correct area, it'll try to It'll let you know like, hey, something changed. Can you please double check this? And then hit play again. So seems like it's still there. It moved a little bit, not too much. So let's hit play again. Oh, okay. Now this is a very common issue. Sometimes you're going to have obstructions or obstacles on the, between the object you're tracking and something standing between you and the tracking, that object and the tracking point, like this situation. The tracker will stop because it no longer is able to follow the airplane. So I hit undo and it went back to the previous stop. And we're going to try this part again, and then I'm going to stop the tracking process right before the obstacle. Here we go, and stop. Oh, it went right through it. Very cool. Okay, cool. It's still there, same area. Still there. It moved a little bit on us, not too much. Here, so when that happens, you want to readjust. Go ahead and readjust. Hit play again. All right. So sometimes when you have these rough camera movements, it'll blur out the image, motion blur, and it'll lose its reference. Just adjust the tracking point. Okay, see? All right, so this tracking point moved on us a lot. So the keyframe that it created moved quite a bit. So it'll make your footage, little jagged, jumpy. So I went ahead and repositioned the tracking point back to there. You can do one frame at a time. When you know that you have bad camera movement or the most difficult part of this, you can do one frame at a time. And I think we're pretty good. We can do play now. Okay, so it's still, oh, okay, I lost its reference again. So now go back to here, bring it back down. Let's try it one frame at a time a couple times. So see, when there's bad camera movement, really rough camera movement, it'll lose its reference. Okay, we're about to approach a building. All right, so now let's just go one frame at a time. It lost its reference. The tracker is going to be kind of freaked out, wondering where that airplane is. Where is that tracking point? Oh, wow, and it kept up with it very nicely. And that is usually not the case. Wow, they really improved this tool. Okay, so hit play again. It fought right through it. I don't know if that was because, that's funny, it went through the building, but it couldn't go past this. That's interesting. I don't know if that was because I went a frame at a time. So let's go one frame at a time. Hit play again. The tracker's still down there, so that's good. All right. Let me zoom back out. Play again. Okay, looks like we reached the end of our footage. So we are done analyzing. Let's go ahead and hit apply. So when you hit apply, it's essentially going to render out those keyframes. Boom, there we go. And you're going to notice that the frame, the video, the footage is outside of the work area. So, and let's play the video. You're going to see how the frame adjusts to keep the airplane stable. It had to adjust the positioning of the footage. So there it goes. It's moving around. It's trying to keep the airplane stable. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit save. And just to save our progress, there's a couple different ways to do this. One, we can hit save and then go back into Premiere and enlarge the footage. So essentially zoom it in so that we don't see the frame here. We would zoom in into this base, essentially cropping into the airplane. That's one way of doing it, which will affect the resolution of the footage. Another way of doing this is turning this After Effects project, turning this into a 3D object. If you look at position, there's only, you have the X and the Y adjustments. But if I go over and turn it into a 3D object, now it's given us a whole nother option here, whole nother possibility. See, so essentially it's zooming in the camera without really cropping your footage. Here we go. It does a better job maintaining the resolution. So see what we're doing here? All right, that came really close here in the bottom. So what we want to do is we want to zoom it in enough to where the footage stays in the working area. Okay, now we're kind of bouncing around on the left side here. So what we can do is find the most affected area and then zoom it in some more. And personally, I'm not too afraid of all right, let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so as you can tell, it doesn't really move to the left. The frame doesn't really move to the left a lot. So what we can do is on the positioning, just move this over, shrink this back down. So it's just a matter of adjusting, making sure that that came pretty close. Let's move this over to the left a little, right there. All right, oh, right there. Go to the furthest point before it bounces back to the other direction. So go there and adjust and just go back. Oh, see. All right, so what I would do here is now adjust this part, because if you pull it back the opposite direction, now it's going to go into the black on this side. So then I just position the z-axis or the camera to zoom in a little more. All right, we are looking good here. So far so good. Oh, don't know what happened there. See, looking good. Just double checking, make sure that this doesn't go past these areas here, the edge of the screen, because then you'll have black footage. All right, so looks pretty good on I think. So I hit save. Now I go back into Premiere. Now that I resized and framed everything, making sure that the footage stays within the frame. So now I go back into Premiere. Okay, so now I am back in Premiere, and as you can see, the footage, everything that I adjusted in After Effects translates over to Premiere. You're gonna see my clip went from blue to pink, which is essentially telling us that it's a After Effects composition. So let's hit play. As you can tell, now everything is stable. It's looking very smooth. I'm very happy with the way this is turning out. There's a little bit of a jump there. and it went right through those obstacles with no problem. There's a little bit of movement. I'm okay with that. Sometimes it's just too much trouble to try to perfect some of those frames. I'm gonna go ahead and render this out. So I go to sequence, and I do render entire work area. So while we let this render out, I'm gonna fast forward it and then come back to show you the final stabilized product, and then we're gonna do a little bit of color adjustment and then prepare it for export. All right, very cool. So now that we are done rendering that out, I'm gonna adjust my the logo here. Let's tweak it. Go to effects. I like to change the opacity just a little bit, and let's scale this up a little bit. I'm also going to do some color adjustments. Now we can do this here, or in, we can do the color adjustments in Premiere or in After Effects. So we have it here. Let's see what it looks like if I just do the adjustments here. Just a little bit of saturation, bring out the brightness a little. Now towards the end of my footage here, the brightness kicks up within the camera, so I can adjust that. We can adjust to that. So let's see, go back. All right, so now let me add a little more of this. Let's go to creative. I like to increase the vibrance. All right, let's take a look. Looks great. It's stable, very, very stable. Let's compare it to the raw. I'm going to stack the original footage on top of the completed footage, but I'm going to adjust the opacity so we can see both videos at the same time. As you can tell, it really did fix a lot of that shakiness from the camera movement, the tripod. Yeah, so I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. I think we cleaned up a lot of the shakiness from the camera movement. The airplane sometimes will shift a little bit on the landing, which gives it this really cool look to it. Again, I'm happy with the way this turned out. And if you guys have any questions, if you guys have different ways, techniques on stabilizing your footage, please share that in the comment section. Any suggestions, please share them. Again, this is how I stabilize my footage. It is not the best way nor the correct way. It is just the way that I do it. So thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next one.